What is up everyone, welcome to this drawing tutorial where we will be going over how to draw forms. I would argue that this is the most important skill when learning how to draw because it will help you draw things in dimension. So starting off, let's go over to the website and grab the free worksheet. Link will be in the description. It's completely free, you don't have to pay for this. It's free, go grab it on the website. Once you have the worksheet downloaded, either print it out if you're working traditionally or drag it into whatever software you are using if you are working digitally. I will be using a pencil and eraser because I'm working traditionally. I'll be using a Pentel mechanical pencil as a 0.5 and a Kneadable eraser. If you are working traditionally, don't use a pen because erasing is a huge part of the learning process. So make sure that you use a pencil and eraser if you are working traditionally. Starting on page 1, we have the three major forms at the top. So we have a sphere, a box, and a cylinder, and we're going to practice each of these forms individually. So we're going to start out with the sphere, which is essentially a ball. So cut from the examples, draw the lines that wrap around the form and also the ones that go behind. So we're drawing all the lines to make sure that we understand how it looks in 3 dimensions. So we want to create the illusion of space. And I also have a line that goes right through the ball. So if you cut from the examples, you can see that there's a bunch of lines within the ball. And this helps us understand the 3 dimension of the figure. Make sure that you erase a lot and take your time with this. This is very challenging to learn, especially if you're new to drawing. This is probably the hardest thing to learn, but there's no easier way to learn this. Just by copying these examples is the way to learn this stuff. I haven't found a way that's easier than this because it takes a lot of time to understand how to draw the illusion of space on a page. It's just such an unnatural thing to do. It's not a natural thing to draw space on a flat piece of paper. That just isn't something that comes naturally. So it takes a little bit of time, it takes a little bit of practice. So be forgiving with yourself as you learn this stuff because it takes time. Even as advanced artists, people will come back to these types of exercises because it's something that is always important. It's at the foundation of drawing 3D elements. So take your time with this, and once you're done this page, we'll move on to the next page. On page number 2, we're drawing more spheres, but this time we're doing dissections of the sphere. So we're cutting into it so that we can see the inside. Cut from the examples. This helps us understand the 3D illusion. So further developing our understanding of how to develop this illusion of 3D space on the page. It takes a little bit of time, takes a lot of practice, so go slowly, erase as much as you need to, and be forgiving. This is hard, this is very difficult. And once you're done this page, do a little bit of practice in your sketchbook. Draw some spheres in your sketchbook, draw a circle, draw the wrapping lines, cut it up and see how you can develop this understanding. It takes a little bit of time. You might have to sleep on this a few times if you're new to drawing. It's not something that will come to you overnight. But the more you practice these exercises, the easier it will become to understand how to draw the illusion of space on a page. So cut from the examples, erase lots, and then once you're done this page, move on to the next one. On page number 3, we're going to combine what we learned by drawing a 2-tiered snowman, and the steps we're going to use are step number 1, we're going to draw the overlapping spheres. So draw the 2 spheres. Then step number 2, we're going to erase away the parts that won't be visible. So we have to decide which of the 2 spheres is closest to us, that those lines will overlap over top of the ball or the sphere that's further behind. And step number 3, we're going to add a cute face. So when you copy from the examples, pay attention to this overlap. For some angles, the bottom sphere will be the one that's closest to us, so that will cover up the back sphere. But for some of them, it'll be the head. So you have to pay attention to this perspective when you draw these snowmen. So copy from the examples. This helps us apply our knowledge. So a big part of learning how to draw is learning the concepts of drawing, like the more fundamental of the dry stuff that we did earlier, and then finding a fun way to apply it. And that way we'll solidify what we've learned. It'll make it much easier to remember how to actually apply the stuff. If we just did the theory stuff, it would get really boring. It wouldn't be a lot of fun. That's why we're doing this exercise. So take your time because this is important. Like learning this step of applying your knowledge is very important. It'll make it much easier to retain what you learn. So cut from the example, erase if you need to, and once you're done this page, do a little bit of sketchbook practice because we're going to move on to boxes on the next page. So take some time, play around with spheres in your sketchbook or on loose paper, and then I'll see you over on page number 4. On page number 4, we're drawing boxes like I mentioned. And this is really great for learning perspective because boxes are very easy for understanding which angle we are looking at the box. So it's very easy to tell if we're looking down at the box, looking up at the box, which angle it's moving in space. It's a lot easier to understand this with a box than with a sphere. So pay attention which angle you see the box at. So for example, the first example, we're looking down at the box. We're looking above, we can see the top surface of that box. And then for some of the boxes, you'll see the underside of the box. So pay attention to this. This is very important for understanding perspective and understanding how to draw forms. Understanding how to draw boxes is always useful. It's a very important skill. You'll see a lot of professional artists use boxes in their warm-ups because it's so helpful to just remember, oh, this is how you draw in space. This is how you create the illusion of space. So copy from the examples and then take a lot of time in your sketchbook to practice drawing boxes because it's so useful, it's so important. So take your time, make sure that you try to get the angles as correctly as you can. Try to draw very clean boxes if you can. It doesn't have to be perfect, but do your best to get the angles right. And don't be shy about erasing and starting over. If the lines are all messy and you just can't find the right lines, erase it all and then start over. Sometimes it's easier just to start over with a blank page than it is to try to correct a mistake. So if the box is turning out horribly, just erase the entire thing and start over, start from the beginning. And once you're done this page, I'll see you over on the next page. On page number 5, let's apply our knowledge of boxes by drawing speakers. And I know some people call these monitors, but to me a monitor is a computer screen, so I just like to think of them as speakers. So to draw these, draw the box first, then add the details. So we always want to start from big to small because it makes it much easier to draw the proportions. If you try to draw the details first, it becomes very difficult to place the larger shapes over top. So start big, then do the small stuff. So start with the box first, then add the details. So copy from the examples. Don't be shy about erasing, like I said. And then once you're done this, do some sketchbook practice, and then I'll see you over on the next page. On page number 6, we're drawing the final of the 3 forms, which is a cylinder, or you can think of it as a tube. Drawing cylinders can be very challenging because we're drawing ellipses, which are circles that are at an angle. They're kind of hard to understand, hard to get used to, but with this practice, we'll get used to it. We'll learn this. Takes a bit of time, but you'll get it with exercise. So again, like the boxes, we want to pay attention to the perspective and how it's moving in space. So for the first example, we're looking down at it and it's moving down and away from us. While the last example on the left column, we're looking up at it and it's moving up and away from us. So copy from the examples, pay attention to perspective and the illusion of space, and don't be shy about erasing. Make sure to take the time to practice in your sketchbook if this is very challenging, because it takes a little bit of time, it takes a lot of practice. Go slowly, erase lots, and I'll see you over on the next page. Make sure to take as much time as you need to. Don't rush. There's no reward for rushing through this stuff. The more you understand these steps, the easier it will be to draw anything, really, because this is at the foundation of drawing. So the better you get at these 3 major forms, the easier it will be to draw anything in the future. So take your time, and I'll see you over on the next page. On page number 7, we're going to draw a cup of coffee using these following steps. So step number 1, draw a tall cylinder. Step number 2, add a thicker but short cylinder on top and add a tiny opening. And step number 3, erase away lines that won't be visible. So the tall cylinder, the top of it, a lot of those lines will disappear once we draw the thicker but short cylinder on top. So copy from the examples. Don't worry about being perfect when copying these, just try to understand the concepts. So the ideas are what matter the most. It's not about copying perfectly, it's about implementing the ideas of this. So the more you understand the concept, the better you'll be in the future. You don't have to copy perfectly, but you do your best to understand how this works, how you could use this construction to draw more complex things. So that's kind of what we're working on. We're taking these forms to draw more complex things. We take something that's very simple and then use that element to simplify things that are way more complex. So you can see now that we're using 2 cylinders, but you can draw way more complex things by adding more and more cylinders. So we'll copy from the examples, understand the concept, and erase away lots if you need to. If you need to erase, don't be shy about it. And then I'll see you over on the next page. On page number 8, we're going to solidify our learning by combining forms and draw a drawer. A standing drawer. Step number 1, draw a box. Step number 2, draw 4 cylinders attached to the bottom of the box, so those will be the legs, and they'll be at the corners of the box. And step number 3, add details and erase away guidelines. So this is very challenging. We're combining 2 different forms, drawing a lot of perspective here, so this is going to take a lot of practice. It's going to take some time. Go slowly and try to make sure that the angles of the lines match up so it looks like a proper box. And go very slowly, because this is not easy at all. I'm throwing a lot at you, but I feel like throwing a lot at you will help you understand how this is very useful. So if I just stuck with the major forms, it wouldn't be very applicable, but by applying what we've learned, this will make it much easier to understand how you could build a foundation of drawing skills on top of this. So go slowly, erase away lots if you need to. And if you're new to drawing, this is going to be hard. Like, I'm just going to say straight up, this is probably difficult. If you're new to drawing, this is going to be hard. Keep your expectations low because this is going to take a lot of practice. So go slowly. Make sure that you understand the concept. So don't worry too much about drawing perfectly. If you can walk away from this, at least understanding how this is useful, then that's a win. You can always come back to this exercise and do it again as you develop your skills, but do understand the concept as soon as possible, because the more you understand the concept, the easier it will be. This also makes it easier to draw from memory, so once you've learned how to break a complex object down into its simple forms, you can easily draw it from memory and make adjustments to stylize it when you want to. So cut from the examples, and I'll see you over in the next page where we'll take it even one step further. Let's just push it for the final page. This is the second last page, and you made it this far, so congrats. I'll see you over on the next page once you're done. On to the final page, we're going to combine even more elements to create a simplified deer. So let's add a neck and head to the drawer structure. So these are going to be the steps. Step number 1, we're going to draw a box like we did with the drawer. Step number 2, we're going to draw the 4 cylinders for the legs. But now it gets a little bit more complicated. We're going to draw, for step number 3, we're going to add a thicker cylinder that's at an angle on the front of the box, and that's the neck of the deer. Step number 4, we're going to draw a long box at the top of the cylinder, right at its ends, which will be the head. So do this slowly, take your time, draw as many guidelines as you need to. Don't rush through this. So there's a lot of steps here, there's a lot of things to draw, so go slowly. This is not easy to do, but this makes it fun, right? Like, you can see how learning these basic forms gives you so much freedom to draw more complex things. And this is kind of the fun of drawing, is that you can take these kind of simple concepts. They're hard to apply. Like, learning how to draw a box is complicated, but it's easy to understand what a box is. So you can see how many things in life will fit within these structures. So take your time with this, erase as much as you need to. In the example, I left some guidelines so you can see the construction of it. So there's some lighter lines. I don't know if you printed this out, it might be hard to see if your printer is kind of cheap like mine, but there are construction lines that you can look on your phone or on your computer that you can see how I've constructed these elements. You can see the inside of the box and the cylinder legs. So that's it. That's the final page for this worksheet. So take your time with this, go slowly. And if you know how to draw this now, if you know how to draw a deer, see if you can draw it in your sketchbook at a different angle. So you know how to draw different boxes at different angles. See if you can move the box a little bit and draw the legs again, draw the neck and the head, and see if that works out for you. Because if you made it this far and you are able to do this, if you feel comfortable with the forms, you might be able to start turning around the object. So that's kind of the goal with this, is that you want to be able to get to a point where you can draw something at one angle, then switch the angle and still have the proportions be right. That's the real challenge. That's like the next level. But if you're a beginner artist, I recommend not trying to push for that too soon. Stick with the simple stuff, stick with the normal exercises, cut from the examples, erase as much as you need to. And that's the final page. You made it this far. And make sure to take your time to practice this stuff. This is a lot of stuff to learn. This is at the foundation of drawing, which means that you're going to be practicing this for years to come. And you'll see the utility of this. So once you look at all the drawings, you'll be able to see, oh, this was made with a sphere and a box. Like, you'll be able to see how things are constructed to build more complex stuff. And it will open the door for you to draw way more complicated things. Thank you so much for watching this. If this was useful to you, make sure to check out more of the free worksheets and tutorials over on the website. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Feel free to subscribe if you like this type of content. See you in the next video. Bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye.